you now have completely changed the fatty acid composition in the meat that you're eating. So there's a ratio of omega-3s. You've probably heard of omega-3s and omega-6s. There's a normal ratio of omega-3s and omega-6s. Omega-6s in too high of quantities are not good. They create inflammation, they create a lot of disease. And those top 3 diseases that I discussed when I first started this training, diabetes, cancer, and heart disease, guess what their commonality is? Guess what their root cause is? Inflammation. How do you protect yourself against the top 3 killers? That's what I'm going to cover today. I'm going to share with you, teach you, enlighten you on the 3 critical dietary changes that you can make to protect yourself against the 3 top killers in the United States. So what are the 3 top killers? Most people know what they are: cancer, heart disease, diabetes. This is Dr. CJ Benkert with Pura Vida Wellness. If you are watching this training on YouTube, please click on the subscribe button below, and please hit the notifications button so that when we post new videos each week in my channel, you'll receive notification of those videos. And of course, if this information is helpful, is guiding you along your path, I would be so grateful if you would share these videos with people that you love and care about. If you're listening on my podcast, I would also ask that you like the channel and that you would share the podcast audios with people that you love and care about. All right, so what are the 3 critical dietary changes that you can make that will create the largest impact on your health? I'm going to cover those 3 changes in the next few minutes. They're easy parallel shifts for the most part. The last one's a little difficult, so I'm going to save the most difficult one for last. So the number 1 thing that you can do as far as changing how you eat, changing your diet to optimize your health, to protect you against dying early of cancer, diabetes, or heart disease, is you want to swap out. And the first 2 are just swap out. So it's really easy. It's not like you're depriving yourself or giving anything up. You're just swapping out. So the first one is you're going to swap out bad fats for good fats. So you're going to remove the bad fats from your diet, and you're going to replace those bad fats with good fats. Now, I've done trainings on detailed information regarding the bad fats versus the good fats, so I would highly recommend that you would go and find those trainings. But in summary, the bad fats are man-made fats, adulterated fats, processed fats like vegetable oils, hydrogenated oils, trans fats, anything that's been changed by man. Good fats or God fats are natural fats like coconut oil and grass-fed butter and organic ghee and avocado oil, walnut oil, flaxseed oil. So those are the good fats. So the bad fats, like the vegetable seed oils, hydrogenated fats, canola oil, safflower oil, sunflower oil, and I know as soon as you hear the word vegetable in the title, you're like, vegetable, that's healthy. Vegetable oils are not healthy. They go rancid, they're processed like crazy, and they create major issues in your body. So when you think to yourself, oh, I'm just going to go through McDonald's and I'm just going to grab some French fries, or, oh, my little grandson, he wants a Happy Meal. It's not that big of a deal, right, to give him McDonald's fries, every once in a while. It's not that big of a deal. Well, remember this. Hydrogenated fats and vegetable oils, like what French fries are cooked in from fast food restaurants, have a half-life of 51 days. In other words, it takes 51 days for just half of the negative effects of those oils, which are nerve transmission, brain function, and immune system. So it's actually 102 days after eating those French fries from McDonald's before the negative effects of those vegetable oils and hydrogenated oils on the cell membrane, on nerve transmission, on the immune system, on the brain cells themselves. It takes 102 days for the negative effects. 102 days, oh my goodness, that's longer than 3 months. Is, 5 or 10 minutes of eating fried French fries worth 3 months of negative effects of brain function, immune system, and nerve transmission? I don't think so. Okay, the second swap out is you're going to, instead of eating commercial meat or commercially raised animals, you're going to be eating humanely raised animals, primarily that are grass-fed. So when you eat commercial meats, those commercial animals are fed grains. First of all, cows were not meant to eat corn. Cows were not designed to eat grain. Cows are supposed to eat grass. So when you eat commercially raised meat, you now have completely changed the fatty acid composition in the meat that you're eating. So there's a ratio of omega-3s. You've probably heard of omega-3s and omega-6s. There's a normal ratio of omega-3s and omega-6s. Omega-6s in too high of quantities are not good. They create inflammation, they create a lot of disease. And those top 3 diseases that I discussed when I first started this training, diabetes, cancer, and heart disease, guess what their commonality is? Guess what their root cause is? Inflammation. So when you're eating an animal that's fed grain, you're getting hormones, you're getting pesticides, you have the bioaccumulation of hormones, pesticides, antibiotics, and the fatty acid composition of the meat is not a healthy ratio of 6s and 3s, but instead of like a normal healthy ratio of 3s to 6s would be like 2 to 1, 4 to 1, which is what you would find typically in humanely raised animals or grass-fed animals, and that's healthy. And that creates a healthy cell, because remember, the cell membrane is made out of a 2-layer, a lipid bilayer of fats. Whereas when you eat commercially raised meat, that omega-3 or omega-6 to omega-3 ratio, instead of being 2 to 1 or 4 to 1, which is good and healthy for the cells and the nerve transmission and brain function and your immune system, it's more like 20 to 1. So 20 omega-6s to omega-3s, way too high in 6s, which creates all kinds of inflammation, and is why this training is about what 3 critical dietary changes can you make that will change everything, that will improve the overall quality of your health, of your life, that will decrease your chances of ending up with the top 3 killers that are most commonly people are suffering from. We've watched our family members die of, our grandparents, our friends, cancer, heart disease, and diabetes. All right, so that's meats. The third one, and this one's a little bit more difficult. It's been more difficult for me, as I've gone through this journey. I think I was born addicted to sugar, and if you've purchased my book and you've read the 2nd chapter, which is my story from pain to purpose, I explain in that chapter how I was addicted to sugar. I remember being 5 years old and sneaking into the kitchen. I don't even know how I knew how to do this, but I would sneak into the kitchen and I'd grab a glass of water and I would run over to the sugar bowl and I'd look around, make sure nobody was watching me, and I'd take the sugar bowl and I'd put 2, 3 spoons of sugar in water and I would stir it up and drink it. That's so crazy. So many Americans are addicted to sugar and carbs, and it's no joke. I mean, sugar addiction's real. I know they've done a lot of studies where they've shown that Eating sugar excites the same part of the brain that is changed and excited with heroin, cocaine. It's a real thing. Sugar addiction is a real thing. So the third change is not really a lateral shift per se. It is, because you can definitely, and we teach this a lot in my program, teach people how to have sweets, how to have treats, how to have breads, how to have fat bombs, chocolate, carrot cake, smoothies, without the processed sugar. So the third thing that you want to cut out is all processed sugars and refined grains. So when I say processed sugars, I'm talking honey. I'm talking agave syrup. I know for a long time I thought, oh, honey, it's natural. Agave syrup, it's natural, it's fine. Bottom line is it raises glucose, and then there's a difference between foods that raise glucose versus like fructose. Fructose actually goes straight to the liver, which is not good, and that's why so many Americans, including our children, have fatty livers. Completely reversible, by the way. So anyway, when you're eating processed sugars, the number one thing is when you're eating processed sugars and refined grains like rice, pasta, breads, things that are refined, they've been stripped of all the fiber, they've been stripped of all the nutrients. Those things break down into sugars and it raises your blood sugar. And the problem is when your blood sugar raises when you have white bread, wheat bread, pasta, rice, even if it's brown rice, when you eat those foods, you're like, oh, brown rice, it's healthy. But it breaks down because it's been stripped of all of its fiber and nutrients. It breaks down into sugar. And when sugar raises, what happens? What have I taught you? What have I been shouting from the rooftops? What is my book all about? Yes, the title of my book is The Diabetic Weight Loss Solution, but what happens before a diagnosis of diabetes is insulin resistance, which creates weight loss resistance, metabolic syndrome, okay? So when the sugar's high, your insulin is released because the high sugar is a warning sign. The body's like, alarm, 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 high sugar, high sugar. Insulin's released, and when you're eating those processed sugars, those refined grains, the opposite, refined sugars, processed grains, you're constantly having high blood sugars, you're constantly releasing insulin. When you're constantly releasing insulin, which is the top fat storage hormone, top aging hormone, top inflammatory hormone in the body, you're going to eventually develop insulin resistance, which is going to show up 10 to 15 years before you're ever diagnosed with diabetes. And that's why sugar's so addictive, and that's why it's one of the things that I'm always teaching people to control. So number one, we want to replace bad fats with good fats. Bad fats are vegetable oils, hydrogenated oils, trans fats like margarine. Good fats are coconut oil, avocado oil, olive oil. Number one. Number two, we're going to stop eating commercially raised animals, which is not humane anyway, and we're only going to eat animals that are grass-fed, they're natural food, and humanely raised. And the third shift that you can make in your diet that will create a dramatic improvement in your overall health and your chance of getting cancer, diabetes, or heart disease is to cut out sugar and to cut out processed grains. So most of the sugar that people are getting, about a third of the sugar that people are getting, the standard American diet, the SAD diet, is from soda drinks, soft drinks, and the other 2/3 of sugar is hidden. You don't even know you're getting the sugar. It's in ketchup, anything with an OSE, and again, honey, agave syrup, rice syrup, brown rice syrup, maltose, lactose, dextrose, glucose. Any OSE ending is a sugar. It's going to release insulin, it's going to create inflammation, it's going to speed up the disease process, speed up the aging processes. So in the early 1900s, average American ate about 5 pounds of sugar per year. Now, average American is is eating anywhere from 150 to 200 pounds of sugar per year. And that's why we are in such a sad place right now. That's why so many people are overweight, have unhealthy metabolisms. Our immune systems are terrible, and that's why this pandemic had the hold and had the effect on our society that it did, because 88% of Americans are insulin resistant. There's only 12% of Americans that actually have healthy metabolisms, that don't have chronic daily energy problems and chronic daily immune system problems and inflammation, and people developing diabetes. Diabetes is on the rise. It is the fastest growing disease on the planet, and it's not just affecting adults anymore, it's affecting children. So we can't even call it type 2 diabetes anymore. I'm sorry, we can't even call it adult onset diabetes anymore, because our children have diabetes now, and that's why we call it type 2. Okay, so if you can please make those 3 changes, and you might not be able to make 3 all at once, so what I would highly encourage anybody that's watching me right now or listening to me right now, the first 2 are the easiest because they're just parallel shifts. So I want you to, after you watch this, I want you to go into your kitchen, and I want you to grab the vegetable oil, the canola oil, the sunflower oil, the safflower oil. I want you to throw it in the garbage, and I want you to get some coconut oil and some olive oil and some avocado oil and some walnut oil and flaxseed oil. Okay. Number 2, I want you to stop eating commercially raised animals. It's not humane. And I want you to start eating grass-fed beef, pasture-raised chickens, animals that aren't pumped full of antibiotics and hormones. Do that for the next 30 to 60 days. Let's just focus on that first. And then once you've put those 2 changes in place, now let's tackle the sugar and the grain. All right, I hope that helps. This is Dr. C.J. Benkert with Pura Vida Wellness, loving you, inspiring you, teaching you, busting the myths, the misinformation, the miscommunication, the lies that we have been told for 50, 60, 70 years, that carbs and breads and pastas should be making up most of our diet. This is Dr. C.J. Benkert sharing the truth with you that those are not healthy foods, that what we really want to be doing is eating mostly healthy fats, lots of low carb, high fiber, high vegetable, water content vegetables, and healthy, humanely raised meat, and a little bit of fruit, and a teeny tiny little bit of sugar and grain. So take that food pyramid and flip it on its head, and maybe then it makes sense. So I hope this helps. Peace out. Have an amazing rest of your day. And just remember that you are a miracle. Your body can heal, and no matter how frustrated you are right now, no matter what's going on with your body, with your health, you can reverse the things that are happening just by giving your body the good stuff and taking away the bad stuff.